descended from the shaman with a shout. With the voice of the chief, heavenly Malak, and with the Shafar, and with the Tekiah Gedolah Yahweh. And the dead and Messiah rose first. After that, those that were living and remaining were seized together with them into the clouds and had a friendly encounter with the master in the air, the unseen realm. And so we the later generations are always with Yahweh from now on. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way, away come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. First came the sad total falling away. Then came that unseen snatching away. Once that day that took them all away. No more new records or documents were made. The sounds of silence reigned from 70 AD to 110 AD, proving that no one was left to proclaim, and that's not shady. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way, away come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. Every book was penned before he came back in the first century. Then 40 years of silence, weird for 40 years after he reappeared. Then 40 years of silence, weird for 40 years after he reappeared. Why then the people's conscience not seared? Their response won a great fear. He returned when the remnant yearned for the parousia in the fellowship clouds. Now we know how to break that silent sound. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. The sound of silence broken by you and me. The silence for 40 years following 70 AD. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. Gives testimony and kingdom glee. For the master himself descended from the shaman with a shout. With the voice of the chief, heavenly Malak, and with the Shafar, and with the Tekiah Gedolah Yahweh. And the dead and Messiah rose first. After that, those that were living and remaining were seized together with them into the clouds and had a friendly encounter with the master in the air, the unseen realm. And so we the later generations are always with Yahweh from now on. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way, away come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. First came the sad total falling away. Then came that unseen snatching away. Once that day that took them all away. No more new records or documents were made. The sounds of silence reigned from 70 AD to 110 AD, proving that no one was left to proclaim, and that's not shady. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way, away come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. Every book was penned before he came back in the first century. Then 40 years of silence, weird for 40 years after he reappeared. Then 40 years of silence, weird for 40 years after he reappeared. Why then the people's conscience not seared? Their response won a great fear. He returned when the remnant yearned for the parousia in the fellowship clouds. Now we know how to break that silent sound. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. The sound of silence broken by you and me. The silence for 40 years following 70 AD. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. Gives testimony and kingdom glee. For the master himself descended from the shaman with a shout. With the voice of the chief, heavenly Malak, and with the Shafar, and with the Tekiah Gedolah Yahweh. And the dead and Messiah rose first. After that, those that were living and remaining were seized together with them into the clouds and had a friendly encounter with the master in the air, the unseen realm. And so we the later generations are always with Yahweh from now on. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way. Away, come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. First came the sad total falling away. Then came that unseen snatching away. Once that day that took them all away. No more new records or documents were made. The sounds of silence reigned from 70 AD to 110 AD, proving that no one was left to proclaim, and that's not shady. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way. Away, come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. Every book was penned before he came back in the first century. Then 40 years of silence, weird for 40 years after he reappeared. Then 40 years of silence, weird for 40 years after he reappeared. Why then the people's conscience not seared? Their response won a great fear. He returned when the remnant yearned for the parousia in the fellowship clouds. Now we know how to break that silent sound. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. The sound of silence broken by you and me. The silence for 40 years following 70 AD. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. Gives testimony and kingdom glee. For the master himself descended from the Shemaim with a shout, with the voice of the chief heavenly Malak, and with the Shafar, and with the Tekiah Gedolah Yahweh. And the dead and Messiah rose first. After that, those that were living and remaining were seized together with them into the clouds, and had a friendly encounter with the master in the air, the unseen realm. And so we the later generations are always with Yahweh from now on. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way. Away, come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. First came the sad total falling away. Then came that unseen snatching away. Once that day that took them all away. No more new records or documents were made. The sounds of silence reigned from 70 AD to 110 AD, proving that no one was left to proclaim, and that's not shady. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way. Away, come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. Every book was penned before he came back in the first century. Then 40 years of silence, weird for 40 years after he reappeared. Then 40 years of silence, weird for 40 years after he reappeared. Why then the people's conscience not seared? Their response won a great fear. He returned when the remnant yearned for the parousia in the fellowship clouds. Now we know how to break that silent sound. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. The sound of silence broken by you and me. The silence for 40 years following 70 AD. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. Gives testimony and kingdom glee. For the master himself descended from the Shemaim with a shout, with the voice of the chief heavenly Malak, and with the Shafar, and with the Tekiah Gedolah Yahweh. And the dead and Messiah rose first. After that, those that were living and remaining were seized together with them into the clouds, and had a friendly encounter with the master in the air, the unseen realm. And so we the later generations are always with Yahweh from now on. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way. Away, come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. First came the sad total falling away. Then came that unseen snatching away. Once that day that took them all away. No more new records records or documents were made. The sounds of silence rain from 70 AD to 110 AD, proving that no one was left to proclaim, and that's not shady. I'm gonna tell you about the anointed silence, not an act of kingdom defiance. The truth is plain as that day. One generation will seize the way. Oh, wait, come what may. Messiah came down to meet and greet. How different, how awesome, how sweet. Oh my, oh my, oh my. He did not lie. Every book was penned before he came back in the first century. Then 40 years of silence wait for 40 years after he reappeared. Then 40 years of silence wait for 40 years after he reappeared. Why then the people's conscience not seared? Their response won a great fear. He returned when the remnant yearned for the Perosi.
Shalom, shalom.
You beat me to the punch. Go ahead.
Shalom, Habrim. Shalom.
Shalom, mishpacha.
Shalom, mishpacha. How are you
Mishpoche.
today?
Mishpoche.
Boker
How
tov.
y'all doing?
I am good today. How are you over there in Florida?
Yep, I'm breathing. I'm cold, a little chilly.
I was gonna say you're kind of cold these days. They keep
Yep.
telling us how bad it is in Florida. I'm like, oh my goodness, my Floridian friend.
It's
Can you handle
Chile.
the cold?
It is Chile, as they say.
It's Chile.
Where are all our listeners? They don't. What happened? We offended everybody in a couple of days. I don't.
Oh well, you know
People are
how
late.
it is. They
People are
gotta
late.
wake up. They gotta get going.
Yeah.
Early in the week. Shavuot Tov, everyone. Shavuot
So
Tov.
did you were you thrown out of the cabin after last week's podcast?
No, actually, boy, I tell you, Mindy and I have some of the best talks. We feel like we're like a marriage lab. we're always running
No,
experiments.
but when she found out you had 7,000 something about something, and you were cracking up on the air, I thought maybe she took it personally.
Oh gosh, no, we have the best chats. That's my bestie, man.
7,000 of anything is a bit much. Eggs, toast, Moshe Konachowski's. I tell you.
Those who will not bow their knee to Baal. That's what I think of when I hear
That's
that.
right. 7,000. That's right.
That's right. That's what I think of.
7,000
7,000 soldiers, 7,000 men of Yahuwah.
That is true.
Stand firm and believe. I tell you what, we're watching a lot of people awaken. Your hard work is paying off. Congratulations on the courage you demonstrated in walking out some of the things that you've walked us out on. And I am just thrilled beyond words. I keep getting more excited, which tells you something really is happening because, it ebbs and flows usually, but it keeps going this way, which is very, very good. I'm very thrilled by the results. I'm loving the fact that the conversations are shifting. We're seeing less antagonism and more discussion, less of what I used to see. I used to see a lot more attacky stuff. And the message of, hey, stop doing that has finally kind of gotten out there. And you can see the effects. Still there. There's still a lot of people that come in and want to yell at everybody. But you're seeing more and more people are going, hey, I was there too. I was confused too. I was lost as well. I found some resources, whether they found the Ristine or one of the other, on their way to the Ristine Bibles. That's what I'll call them. I'll call them on the way to the Ristine. And it doesn't matter because they're waking up. They're asking new questions, right? They're saying something is not right with what we were given because the results don't lie. And so we don't have to look at how we got. All we have to do is say these results don't match the scripture, so something's wrong in the formula. At least we're going to look. So this, I think, has been an amazing thing to this point. What's your thoughts on that show?
Yeah. I like the fake deliverances that last for a week
Yep.
or for 2 weeks, or the fake salvations. If you're really saved, you don't have to come up every Sunday to get resaved. I mean, it either is finished or in you, or it's not. But here's something I want to throw at you. It's very interesting. When you're in the prophetic, when you're moving in the ruach, you never know when a person, not you specifically, you never know the buildup or the fallout. Let me explain to you what I mean, because I can only relate to what Yahuwah commissioned me to do. Okay, so when I came out with the return of Yahusha, which needs to be taught, Yahweh knows that needs to be taught. So when I came out with it, just like most human beings, I took a pen and a paper, and I counted the cost.
Well, let's see. How many people will I lose selling them this?
And I started calculating. This one's going to leave. This one's going to leave. This one's going to ask so many questions that I'm going to want them to leave, because my limit is 500,000 questions. Okay, I can do up to 500,000. So I started counting the cost, right? That's Yiddish, by the way, or German. German will understand what that means. So I'm like, whoa, you can't catch the tail of the prophetic. So instead of losing people over the return of Messiah, people are so happy and so joyous and so kingdom glee-ish to have been touched with this vital truth of the consummation of all things and the marriage, and that I lost people. I did lose people, yes, but not because of the return of Yahusha. In other words, when the prophetic moves, you never know the fallout or the buildup. There could be significant buildup. There could be a significant fallout. I thought people would leave my work and any kind of affiliation because they thought anything but futurism is heresy. Just the opposite. We gained followers, but we did lose a couple. Ready for this? Because now they took the 70 AD return of Yahusha as an excuse not to do Torah, because if the Mosaic age came to an end, now I'm free. I don't have to do Torah, because if I do Torah, I'm disrespecting the first century Parousia. And so there was a fallout. But wait, there was a fallout, yes, but not what I calculated. You get my point?
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting. You can't always tell where it's going to be.
You never know.
You never know where you think it's going to be here and it's over here, and you're like, what?
Correct.
It does.
Once the prophetic word is commissioned and released, you just don't know the grainy sand, the stony sand, the mixed sand. You don't know the benefits. You don't know how it's going to benefit the kingdom, or how it adversely may reduce the kingdom, where people just go into disobedience, just like the futurists, and say, well, if everything has been done away with that was affiliated with the temple, so has the Shabbat, so has the Moadim. And so what I'm trying to say, clumsily, I did lose a few, but not because of what I thought. So you never know when Yahweh has told you.
Kind of save you like they were being held in.
But isn't it the same with you? But wait a second. Isn't it the same with you? You thought you were doing things to help people in terms of being financially independent and sovereigns, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it fell out the wrong way. So I mean, this
often does.
Yeah,
it often does.
Yeah.
What's that saying? No good deed gets goes unpunished or something like that.
Mhm.
So, that is something that I've battled my whole life. One of the things that I got told when I was a kid, a little boy, I cleaned something. I don't remember what it was. I did something that I wasn't asked to do. And I was told, "Oh, you're trying to be good, too good to be true," or something like that. And that stuck with me. And it's been with me the whole time. My whole life. It's like, question your motives, question why you're doing it. Why are you doing that? And that's something that's just part of the walk, I think, and something that you have to overcome if you're going to be a vessel in this hour. And what you just said is exactly correct. Well, you mentioned the prophetic word. I want to go there here in a minute, but I want to say something about the auxiliary, because you made it such a great point. I gotta touch it. So many times the offense that we created or whatever is nowhere near where we thought we were guarding against. Like, I can't even tell you, and I'm sure you have some stories too, where the donuts I bought, I preached for 2 hours, and the only thing you want to tell me about is the donuts I bought, or that you didn't like the fact that I was wearing. Back then, I used to dress differently, so I was wearing cufflinks. That bothered you? The cufflinks bothered you? My parents taught me to dress. I don't dress like a slob. I never went to church like a slob. I didn't care how anybody else dressed. I didn't. I never did that. I always dressed up because that's how I was taught. So again, that would offend people because I was in Minnesota, right? In the Midwest, where they're all untuck it. Everything is untuck it. And I'm not an untuck it kind of guy.
Maybe I should move to Minnesota.
I know, but I'm just saying this was back in the 90s and whatever. We're still.
But I am an untucked guy, but for the record.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not, right? So that's not my style. But my point is that people get offended. And you're like, what in my message? What did I preach on? Oh, no, that was great. You got nothing to say about the scriptures we went over or none of that. You got a problem with the donuts.
My word.
I'm not even kidding you. And people who have been with me for a while, they'll remember this. Drew, he's been around a while. He'll remember this. Okay.
Drew probably remembers everything.
Drew he's like my historian. He is like literally the guy I go to. So remember this, Drew? And he goes, yep. He was there, I love that. Because, you have a witness. And we all watch as people's expectations were imposed in meetings, in ministry. Their expectations became more important than the delivery of the message,
than the meat of the word,
than the meat of the word, than the work of the ministry.
Yeah.
Okay. And we got, and something Sholiak and I were talking about behind the scenes on the way up to this broadcast, guys, is the level of distraction that has now been put out there in the public just to give us all something to talk about. Okay. And we need to now say, is everybody now fully convinced of how cuckoo that world is? I don't want to talk about right wing. I don't want to talk about left wing. I don't care about left wing or white wing or red.
I don't want to support any of it.
It is all disgusting. Are we done yet? And I hope so, because I hope everybody goes, okay, I'm done with that. Let's get on into the new kingdom. Let's get on over into the understanding of the age we're in. Let's start walking in what we've been given, because these people are crazy.
Yeah, and absolutely. But getting back just for a second to the fallout. So, like you were saying, and like I was saying, when you under a commission from Yahuwah,
yes,
the word will prosper, right? Where he sends it and how he sends it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that prosperity, as you well know, is a reduction. Sometimes it is a trimming. Sometimes it is a pruning. And like I said, I did everything but take a notepad. Okay. And I say, okay, Father, 2 houses, I count the cost. True name, breaking the 3rd commandment, I count the cost. And then you try to figure who's going to leave you, who's more likely to leave. I'm just human, right?
Yeah.
But you can't put the Ruach in a box like that. You can't. Because so far, not a single person has unaffiliated because of the parousia, right? The economai of 70 AD. But I'm getting fallout. People go, "Oh, you mean I'm free? I don't have to do the Torah?"
It goes to show you that the eschaton, or the way in which they viewed eschatology, it's exposing cons. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. I'm going to pull the Band-Aid off. Exposing cons. Oh, I was only behaving because I wanted to get this. But now that I know that that is behind me, well, then my behavior incentive is gone. Wow. Okay. Mira tú. Well, now we know. So you just exposed yourself.
Well, not only that, but think about this. So I said to one individual, I said, okay, is Genesis 126, 124 through 26 in the Torah? See, y'all? So, well, you said the Torah has been passed away. Since we're not under the old heaven and earth, then that also is not applicable for today. Well, what is it? Well, that is be fruitful and multiply. So that means you're not allowed to have intimacy with your wife because that's part of the old heaven and earth.
That was a nice one. That was a nice one.
That's where they bring in the.
There was no response to that.
That's where they bring in the exception.
Not responding.
Yeah, that's where they bring in the exception card. Now let's take Shabbat.
Hey, brother, I'm under grace.
Yeah, let's take Shabbat. Shabbat has nothing whatsoever to do with the Torah. It is a creation ordinance that is recorded in the Torah and then given to the covenant people.
Right.
But it predated the Torah. Yes?
Exactly correct.
So if the old heaven and earth passed away, are you free to worship Baal? Or are you free to celebrate the creation ordinance, which now becomes a recreation ordinance because you're a new creature in the Messiah?
Wouldn't the knowledge of
isn't the Shabbat a recreation ordinance?
Yes. And wouldn't the knowledge of these things make you even more dedicated?
More dedicated. More dedicated.
If you now know that they are in fact true.
Right.
And that he keeps all his word.
How can
if that doesn't put the fear of him in you, it should.
How can the return of Yahusha make you less spirit-filled, less dedicated, or reverse anything that had to do with creation way before there was a Moses? Right? Be fruitful and multiply. Without be fruitful and multiply, we would have no Moses. If we had no Moses, we would have no Torah.
We'd have no Torah. Or not on earth anyway. So, the fact is that he sent down the Torah to us. The word came down on Mount Sinai. That was the interruption of artificial intelligence. So don't think it's a new concept. They were artificially intelligent back then too. Okay, it was all artificial. Believe in a bunch of nonsense. Gobbledygook. Okay? And he has to send down divine intelligence to straighten out the
man. Yeah.
Okay, he has to send down brains because we were listening to Egyptians and Babylonians, and we're all going like this, just like you do now. If you listen to, which one, left-wing news or right-wing news, you're going to go the same loopy. You got Egyptians on the left and Babylonians on the right.
Which one to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am. You want me to break out?
The Egyptians are blue, to the left and the Babylonians are red.
To the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with Peter.
Exactly. And everybody's waking up going, never mind. And they're turning it all off. And good for you, by the way. All of you who are going, oh my goodness, you're throwing away your blue hat, your red hat, your purple hat, your freak flag. You're throwing it all away. Good for you. Wake up. Wake up. And realize that all of that was a distraction, a circus. Just like church means circus. Well, that's what they're taking you to. Why? To distract you from the prophetic word, to distract you from the work of the ministry, to consume your time that we are supposed to be redeeming because the days are evil.
Absolutely.
So my exhortation to all of you is turn all their channels off and walk off and say, you know what? I've given you all the time you deserve. And I'm done.
I'm doing that more. The funny thing is, I turn on the news like you say, to be updated but not overwhelmed, right? Which is your broadcast, the theme of the Monday broadcast, the Monday night. So I do that, and then what's been happening is because I used to be a news junkie many years ago, like many of us were,
Mm-hmm.
and then I, got more spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
and I cut back to a few hours a day. But what's happening now? I say that tongue in cheek, right?
See what I mean?
But what happens now is when I turn on the news, I'm like, after 9 minutes, seriously, after 9 minutes or 8 minutes, I run to YouTube. I never thought I would see the day when I can get more in the spirit on YouTube, where at least I have a choice, right? I can
Mhm.
choose. Then, and I get, regardless, the legacy media, isn't that? And I think we mentioned that backstage.
Mhm.
The legacy media, oh, Epstein and Trump and Biden and hookers, right? All of a sudden, it's Ukraine again. It,
Yeah.
wait a second.
So Matt, don't we want to talk about this, guys?
It's the government shutdown again. Excuse me. Weren't you guys that were shouting to release the Epstein
Just
file?
a week ago.
Now, all of a sudden, you're talking
You don't
about
want to talk about it. Oh
you
no,
don't
this
want
is
to talk about it. So, in other words, we got to go to social media because they're the only ones talking about it. That tells me right there. And the reason I believe is because they want access. They don't want to upset the powers that be because they want access. Access means honor. Access means shared power or a perception of shared power.
what we're finding out, folks, is that to sum it up, is that this show has been nothing but a scam. We're all realizing what a scam, a full-on scam,
Yeah.
we've all been subjected to. I don't care which side of whatever aisle you
Yep.
thought you were on. We're
I
all
agree.
waking up going, we got straight hustled by all of them, all of them.
But didn't but
And
but didn't Freemason George Washington warn us?
yes,
And didn't Jefferson Freemason
they all
33rd
warned you.
degree?
They all
Didn't they
told you
warn
what was
us? They were basically saying that Freemasonry is okay, but political parties are not. They did warn us about political parties and central banking, right?
look at the countries. You know what I use as, and yes, the answer to that is yes. Especially the wars with Hamilton. But the thing that I look at right now on the world scene, just looking at our modern 2026 world, look at countries that do not have the two-party fight every 2 or 4 year system. They're cruising past you. Why? Because they don't have this nonsense, arcane, constant battle. You notice our country's in literally battle state every other year. It's every other year. It never stops. And so you can't ever produce consistency, constancy. You're creating an atmosphere of constant conflict or strife, which is why we're sort of the war making part of the world. The world looks at the West as war making. That's what you do. You make war. And this goes back hundreds of years, guys. China was opened by a war. China had closed its gates to the West, and that is their tradition. They had one port you could go through, only one. And the only reason why that changed, Great Britain went to war with China. They called it the Opium Wars, and they opened the gate. So what we know through history is that we have seen an ebb and flow. And if you are a student of history, you know we are in another one of those ebbs and flows because of the same topic. Different weapons, same stories. And so, again, folks, this
Yeah.
is why it's so important we disconnect from all this nonsense and get back to what we're called to do. Get back to the work of the ministry while we have time.
Correct. Changing the subject to a more positive thing.
Yes.
And you can discuss anything that we're led to discuss, but one thing that I'm going to teach on this coming Shabbat. We've been talking about the period of silence, right? This
Mhm.
40 years of silence.
One of the most powerful parts
And
of your discussion has been the silence.
and the empirical proof, right? But
Yep.
but what I'm going to bring forth on this Shabbat is that Hebrews 10:25. Now, in Hebrews 10:25 in isolation is, oh, you're one of those yawners.
Mhm.
I already knew that. Peter Martinez, Apostle Peter, tells you, do not forsake the assembling of yourselves together, as the manner of some is, all the more as you see the day approaching.
That's right.
Boring. We already knew that. And we already attend the assembly. But here's what the writer of Hebrews was really saying. When was Hebrews written? In the 60s, right? In the middle 60s.
Mm-hmm.
What's the end of that verse? The day is approaching so soon, within the next 8 years, 6
As
years,
you see
whatever,
the day approaching.
that if you're not in assembly, you're gonna love this. If you're not in assembly, you're not going to meet the master when he comes. You know when Yahusha returned in 66 AD, right before, in the Parousia, to remove his Kedoshim and to raise the dead, so they wouldn't have to go through the Great Tribulation? At Shavuot, we're in assembly several weeks after Pesach. They were in assembly in 70 AD, and on the night, which was a Yom Achad, it was a Yom Achad, on the night of Shavuot, in the assembly, he appeared to them. And that's why he said, make sure you are in the assembly as you believe that the day, as you believe that the day is getting closer and closer. Think about that. So I'm going to share very, very solid evidence that when he returned before the Great Tribulation in 70 AD, beginning 66 to 70, that was a 3.5 year tribulation, the
Right.
Roman Jewish War. They were resurrected, the dead were resurrected, and the living were changed while they were in Shavuot assembly. Because remember, that's when the Ruach fell, right? That's when the Ruach fell in 30. And 40 years later, the Ruach really fell. And Yahusha came to resurrect the dead and to change the living. And all that happened on Shavuot. Can you imagine that?
I can imagine it. Not only can I imagine it, not only is it a fact, and it is true, it's a historical fact. It's behind you, folks. Sorry, hate to put it to you that way, but it is. When he said, not only Sholiak is correct. So first of all, show respect, because the man is correct. All right. And I don't say that lightly. You know that. You know that I weigh things very carefully. So he is correct. Now, when he said every eye shall behold him, I want you to think very carefully who he was talking to. Whose every eye would behold him? Whose?
Mhm.
Because you just presumed that he was talking to the guy in Fiji. You just presumed he was talking to the guy who happened to be in Germania at the time,
Right.
or Russia,
Right.
but he wasn't talking to them because they weren't there.
And they weren't covenant people.
So if I said, and I'm standing in amongst, my brethren, and I say, everyone's going to receive XYZ, am I supposed to get a note from a guy in China who says, hey, by the way, am I included in that? What? Or some guy in some other place, right? So I think we make a lot of presumptions when we read, first of all. So every eye, that's just one thing. So every eye where? And then, so who was he talking to?
In the
And what
assembly.
obligations does he have to those outside of covenant? What obligations does he have to those outside of covenant? Can you tell me what obligations he
Several.
had? So if you were not in the assembly, on the 8th day, okay, after he completed the 7 days of the feast, after he completed first fruits, and you weren't there, you wouldn't have been able to see him because he went in amongst his brethren. So you wouldn't have known, because he honored what he said. They had to be in assembly, united.
Correct. But
in your
remember,
face.
but right,
And this was in the Galilee. This wasn't in Jerusalem where you're describing. Same thing though. Same point. You're making the same point.
right,
But I'm pointing at another example saying, do you see that assembly where he told them to go together, and they went and they stayed together, and guess where he appears?
correct. Let's dissect that verse. Do not forsake the assembling of yourselves together, as the manner of some is,
As the manner of some
all
is.
the more as you see the day approaching. So he's appealing to them
Yeah.
based on an eschatological immediacy.
But I'm saying to you that he used the 8th day as a precursor to drop this example in them, so that when they had to wait the long wait, the short wait would remind them that he keeps his word. So the short wait, go to Galilee, I'll meet you up there, was a short wait. You understand? You see how that was a short one. That was not too long. And so they got to see him rise, but they knew that he had to wait for him. And so they go up to the Galilee at the wait. Then he appears in their midst. You see what he just did there? He confirmed to them, you be patient. You don't worry. You go do what I tell you to do. I will appear in your midst.
Correct.
That's the message that he's dropping without having to say a word. He just did it.
I'm going to appear in your assembly.
I'm going to appear right here in your midst. So now all of a sudden they're like, man, assembly's where it's at. Okay, everybody. Where did he appear? In the assembly? Where were you? I don't know. Where were y'all? You guys
And
were
that's
over
when
there.
the resurrection. That's
Yeah,
when the
500 saw
resurrection.
him when he rose, but only 120 made it to the right place at Shavuot. What happened?
Right. That's when the resurrection and the change of the living occurred. They were taken to a different realm. You understand?
Come on.
Nobody saw it because they were taken to a different realm. Now, here's something else. How do we reconcile that to 1 Thessalonians 5:1 and 2? Behold, the master will come as a thief in the night. Now watch this. When we take Hebrews 10:25 and we try to reconcile it with 1 Thessalonians 5:1 and 2, it makes perfect sense. You know why? Because the parousia, when they were resurrected and caught up, took place at night, the night of Shavuot. Get this. He will come as a thief in the night. Why? Because he will come for those in his assembly, right? They were gathered for Shavuot, right? They were keeping Torah. And when did he come? As a thief in the night.
And you can never be prepped.
The night of Shavuot.
That's
you
right.
Get that?
Who's ready in the 10 virgins? Look at this example. There's 5 virgins who are wise. They go in together. 5 are foolish. Not only did they have to at the last minute try to repair what they had not done up to that point, showing a lack of industry and dutifulness, but on top of that, the entitlement becomes very obvious when they're knocking on the door after the fact, saying, "Open to us." Still not perceiving that they had missed their opportunity.
Correct.
So, still not perceiving that he did not appear to them.
Correct.
He appeared to those who were prepared and ready. You cannot skip that message.
Just like in the Holocaust, they figured, like in the Holocaust, their Jewish neighbors disappeared. Well, they figured that Hitler took them away and they didn't want to get involved. So the 5 foolish virgins in 70 AD figured Nero had arrested the Christians or murdered them, of the believers, and they didn't want to put their nose in. So people say, well, how did they explain the fact that the living were taken to a different realm? Very simple. The Neronic persecution. They didn't want to get involved.
It was brutal.
Yeah, Nero first came the Neronic persecution, then came the Great Tribulation. So when the Neronic persecution was underway in 64 to approximately 66, when people saw people that were no longer there because of the resurrection had taken place, they just figured Nero slaughtered them or took them to Rome or whatever. And that was the Neronic persecution was some serious stuff. Serious stuff.
Everything outside of the household of faith, everything outside the gates, if you will, was tons of confusion. Still is. We're sorting from the outside, if you will, like, oh my goodness, what happened here? And only those who have the right heart, who have the heart to obey, because you cannot have access to the tree without obedience to the commandments. I hate to break it to you.
That's
so
right.
Anybody that said, oh, you know that, well, then you must not want access, because that is still what it says. It has not changed. So
That's
you
right.
want access to the tree. This lesson has been a long lesson about you best to keep his word.
Yep,
Okay, it's been a
absolutely.
long walk around this whole thing, and I'm not going around against you. You guys go right ahead.
And to the unbelievers in the first century, when he returned, he came at night, the night of Shavuot. So he came like a thief in the night. And
Mhm.
like you said, in the assembly to resurrect and to change the living. And it was in the night like a thief. Why? Because the outside world that was not obeying him to look up for your redemption draws nigh. He came
And
as
they
a,
were, and then by the way, that happened all over the world because people left
he
Shavuot
came as a thief. He came
in
as a thief.
33, right? When he rose again, and then they got Shavuot, the Ruach comes down, and then they go back to all their countries. So they're filled with the Ruach, filled with the Ruach. I mean, speaking, touching, healing, filled with the Ruach. They go back to all over the world because they had come for the feast. And now they go back to all their countries. So over that next 40 years, the word was going to the people that it needed to go to who were in assembly. The time had come. I said the time had come. And the word went out throughout the whole world to all believers, all who were authentically inside, and they were all given that word. So when
So
they were taken, okay, when this occurs, of course you're not going to hear about it. You got all the left behind angry people left. You got all the people that are looking for excuses or making up reasons why they're still Star Spangled Awesome. Look how entitled they are. They're knocking on the door after the fact saying open to us. Oh, you must have made a mistake.
but they had logical reasons because they knew Nero was rounding up believers.
They had all
So
kinds of logics.
they
This is the craziest
logically
world out here.
explained that people were missing. And now let's top it off with that. In addition, in Second Thessalonians 2, Sholiach Shaul spoke about the great apostasia. So
Right.
instead of, let's say, I'm just going to throw a number out there,
Mhm.
instead of, let's say, 500,000 believers in Judea, Samaria, etc., there were 2,000. So number one, you have slim pickings to begin with. So you go from and these are made up numbers, but you get my point. To go from 500,000 to 2,000. Now, out of those 2,000, let's say 900 were not in assembly. They were making excuses, foolish virgins. So you're left with 1,000 people. So when we talk about people disappearing
It
in the
wasn't as
first,
many as you think.
it wasn't as many. It wasn't as many
And
because remember
we
what
are witness to that because I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people might watch a broadcast and they might participate in this and that, but when it comes to really walking, when it comes to being part of the assembly and caring about that assembly, oh my goodness, the numbers are usually ridiculously
and
low.
remember what Yahusha, that's right. And remember what Yahusha said in Luke 18:8. And there's a reason. When the Ben Adam returns, will he find
Faith,
Nasarim,
right?
real faith? The answer is no. Because we don't understand when the scriptures talk about a first century apostasia from
Mhm.
30 AD, 33, whatever year you want to use, to
Right.
70. People were falling away left and right between the Hellenists, the Greco-Romanists, the Ecclesiasticals, the death of the leader Yaakov, and people got discouraged, the scattering of the flock, the
Yeah,
so-called
we
the so
underestimate the death of
the
Yaakov, and what
so-called
that,
the so-called Judaizers who were
yeah,
not Judaizers, they were Pharisees who were
right,
trying to bring the disciples back under their control.
right,
Okay,
exactly,
and then
exactly.
came
Same
on
thing.
top of all that came the hunting. It was a hunting season of Nero. This was not just a persecution of believers before 66, but this was from 64 to 66. This was hunting season. The
Mhm.
tigers, the lions, they were sport. They needed
Right.
fodder for sport. So you can easily go from 500,000, now you're down to 2,000, but 1,100 don't want to come to the assembly. And so Hebrews 10:25 is a final warning. He's going to come as a thief in the night. Because
Yep.
if you're not assembled on Shavuot, according to the Moadim, at night, you're going to be damned and you're going to perish. So that was not just that, Peter's got such a great congregation. You might as well join. No, that was a matter of
Life and death.
resurrection,
Yeah,
life, no
spiritual life and death.
resurrection.
Yep. I've been
Change
trying
into
to say
immortality,
this
change
for
into
like
immortality, or
10
no
years, man.
change into immortality.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for saying that, pulling a band-aid off. Sholiak. Oh, I love you so much. That's exactly right. How long have we been saying, folks, you cannot get saved outside the assembly any more than you can get to the tree of life from outside the city? It's the same point. Literally the same point.
So next time somebody says, why is this so important? It's so important that the resurrection of the saints of the first century depended on it.
You're practicing inside the city when you're inside the assembly. One more time. One more time.
Mhm.
The Sholiak or the pastor is representing the tree of life. Okay. He is a picture of it. That is why he is there. He was sent by the king himself, if he's real, or, if there was a real vessel. And so you're coming into the assembly. This becomes a tree of life or a river of living water where you're supposed to be planted next to it. Okay. So you're constantly refreshed, constantly getting word. Look what you're going to get every week. Look what you're going to get constantly. You're going to receive this from the offices that he installed. Why?
Amen.
To prepare you, to get you to think a certain way, to get you to shift so that you can go very easily right into the city, because you're already used to being inside the assembly, being inside of the cover. You are already a submitted heart. You're very few. You were harvested from the many. You were harvested from the many.
Yeah.
And he took chosen fruit. And he said, these, they obey my word. They can come inside the city. Okay. These obey me.
But in
They
that,
humble themselves before me. They bring me the honor, the kavod, the tapara that I deserve. These I will let in. These other ones are all talkers. Leave them outside with the dogs.
but in that understanding, everything is reconciled. In other words,
Right.
his appearing will be public to a certain group,
Right.
covenant. But on the other hand, it'll also be as a thief in the night. Now,
Yeah.
we
The ones that they weren't in covenant.
through this understanding, we reconcile it because he literally came in the night, right, on Shavuot. So even there, you have a Torah connection. Even there, you have in other words, even the parousia was aligned with the Moadim. Yahuwah does nothing outside of angelic time. He does nothing. And that's what makes Enoch so great. He's the apostle of time. Okay?
Now,
Enoch is not the apostle of eschatology. Enoch is the apostle of time.
of time.
People say we follow the Enochian calendar. The problem with that is there is no Enochian calendar. There are Enochian principles.
That's it.
In his writings,
principles of time.
Principles of time, but it's angelic time. It's angelic time.
Boy, there's a point, and we're not going to go there today. What we are going to talk about today, though, really quickly, is the prophetic word still coming? Do we still get the prophetic word? What is the prophetic word for the hour? Is the prophetic word of the hour red hat, blue hat? Is that the prophetic word? Is that the word of Yahuwah that has been coming? Pay attention to politics and all this other nonsense. What is that he told us? What did he warn us about? And I know, Sholiak, you've been given multiple prophetic words through the last 20 years as we've walked to this spot. So now people can see something today that they couldn't see 5 years ago.
But I don't bother telling them because they don't believe me. They don't believe anybody can hear from Yahuwah. So I don't even bother telling them. If I told somebody I saw the helicopter of Jimmy Carter crashing before it took off to rescue the hostages in Iran, nobody would believe me. So I don't tell them.
I would believe you. And I think one of the reasons why it's important that we share these things is so that they would say Yahuwah does still speak through people. Because if he used that Puerto Rican guy, I mean, if he's using this Puerto Rican dude, okay, and he spoke to him, I'm at least as good as that Puerto Rican.
I love Puerto Ricans. I don't.
I'm at least as good.
Don't be so harsh on yourself. I love
and that's what you know, but it's what you should think. It's what you should be, he's no respecter of persons. And when he gives warning or he's saying, who's want to listen? Who wants to listen? Who's ready to sit down with me? And on May 14, 2013, we started a 3-day fast. And now anybody that's done fasting and praying knows that usually it's at the end. If anything, you're going to get, if you have a 3-day fasting and praying, you usually wait until the very last second and maybe you get something. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just get through the process, right? So I didn't know what to expect. That's usually the case. You don't know what to expect. You just knew it was time to pray. It was a time period of deep reflection about some of the things that you're seeing now in the news. We were getting in the Ruach. Okay, so the things you're seeing now in the news that are coming out, especially the thing that just came out, the stuff that just got released and all that, that was what was in us in 2013. We were praying about. Lots of people were involved in that, and so we went to a 3-day fasting and prayer period, and it was literally on the very first day. So that's what made it very unusual, because usually, again, you have to wait. So it was the very first day. It was May 14th, 2013. I did not take note of the date until after. And then later on I went, oh, wait, that's a significant day of the year, right? So anyway, I had an open vision. And in that open vision, I saw the Civil War. The United States was in civil war. And it was essentially government fighting itself. The country had turned inward and turned against itself. And
how about its allies? How about turning against its allies?
I did not see anything outside the United States. It was all internal. And there was a lot of smoke. And they had, I gave a long detailed, it's on my channel. So if you guys want to listen to the long detailed version of this, you can. Again, go on to the Remnant House channel. You can find, just look up Civil War and you'll find the word. But the point is that there were considerable things that were happening. And I saw the human-like, they looked human. And I did not have a description for it because at the time we did not know what we would now know, that they were making these things and making them so lifelike or human-like that you can hardly tell. And they were picking up dead bodies. That's what they were sent to do, and putting them in a train and getting rid of them. So this thing has been warned about. We are seeing the results of things that the Ruach has been saying to various vessels. You know, this is coming, this is coming. And yeah, you might interpret it as the end of the world, but it doesn't matter how you interpret it. What matters is it's the end of something. Something is shifting here. And it is important that you recognize that you are in the midst of a massive shift, just as it was in Israel. So this is why we look back at these examples. And when we see he kept his word and is certain, then you go, okay, if we're in a similar moment to what they were in, and he's doing the same thing, like he's going to keep his word, you best to get into assembly. You best to get into the places where you submitted to Yahuwah, so that when he looks down, he sees you in your place. He sees you where you belong. Don't look to the left. Don't look to the right. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. You do what you're called to do, boo-boo. Okay, right. You get to your spot.
Right.
This is all hands on deck.
And I do agree with you that Yahuwah works in patterns, and even after 70 AD, the patterns are never broken. Those are universal laws of favor and judgment and whatever that Yahuwah set into effect. So the 70 AD does not, since we're in the kingdom, these patterns continue, and the pattern of the righteous living in the new Yerushalayim, and the unrighteous away from his presence. I mean, nothing changes.
Nope. Psalm 2 is in full effect.
You talk about patterns all the time, and I want everybody to understand that I agree with Peter. Obviously, there are patterns. Obviously, what does generation mean? It means regeneration.
Yeah.
It means
reset the pattern.
It means sexually excited men and sexually excited women have to mate. So they have the repeating pattern. If you didn't have a repeating pattern, there's no new generation. So Messiah's coming did not affect this generation being born, or the next one, or the one after that. So
let me put it to you another way.
We can't ignore patterns. Patterns are here to stay, right? Patterns are here to stay.
It's pretty obvious from the historical record to me, and this may not be obvious to everybody else, but what it looks like to me is he pulls his firebrands out of the fire. He wants those who stood up against his enemies and said, I don't care what you do, I'm not backing up. And there ain't no other way to give us that test but that we are in an environment that forces us to go, we ain't budging. And then he's proud of you. Okay. Then he sees you and says, now that's my son. Now that's my daughter. And harvests. I don't think that's changed for millennia. I think that's been the same program.
I agree.
Running in every generation. It's been different bad guys. It's been a different Nero. Okay, we got a different Nero this time. Who's playing Nero? Who's gonna play Judas? Come on, who wants to play Judas?
And that's why the word says, and that's why the word says in Hebrews, you're talking about a test. Without the test, we can't be proven faithful.
That's right.
But it says, but wait, it says, I'm not going to test you. You examine yourself to see if you're in the faith.
But that's the believer.
So when the trial comes for a believer, is to examine yourself. It's not for Yahuwah. It's not for Yahuwah to punish you. It's for you to say, wait a second, let me examine. And I do that in my teachings all the time. When I get into too much grace, I turn right and go back to Torah. When I get into too much Torah without any love and grace, I stop and I go back to grace. In other words, what I do in my teachings, I always examine myself and say, okay, there's going to come a point also when I've discharged the 70 AD responsibility, the burden of the word of Yahuwah, which, by the way, is called in Hebrews Maaseh. It's the same word for tithe. Okay? Man, so when I discharge the Maaseh of Yahuwah, then I will go back to something that some consider more balanced, but not until I have released that burden. So yes, I agree with you that examining is important. And the tests are to prove who his jewels are, the ones who come out of the fire. And the fire has patterns. The deliverance has patterns. The lion's den has patterns. Nero becomes Hitler. Hitler becomes Mussolini. Mussolini becomes this one and that. That's right.
The newest one. We had the newest one right there. But listen, here's something that you're making a point of that I've been writing about that you didn't know. So we did not coordinate this. There's no way he would have known I was writing about anything in my private studies. My wife would be the only one, because she's the only one I talk to about this. So she's now my witness. And what you're describing is the difference between external questions being asked, things being dictated that come from the outside of you, and they don't actually change you. The only thing you have is compliance or defiance. That's it. That's all there is. Versus the believer, versus the authentic, born again, genuinely transformed out of the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of his dear son, the very small number he's talking about, the tiny number. They don't operate this way. They do not operate from the outside in, as most of the people you see do. They operate from an internal question, an internal review, an examining of themselves. This is a very different paradigm. Watch this now, because when you have an external question, somebody asks you to do something or puts it to you from the outside, there's no cognition. There's low cognition, I should say. They're barely only detecting whether or not the person is even logical or not. There's no character development. There's only compliance or defiance when it's coming from the outside of you. There's external behavior modifiers. You have to have them on the outside in order for that to have any value. There's no calculation. There's only performance. And that's why it'll fall away the moment you change one fixed point. Oh, by the way, this piece of information isn't quite true. It shouldn't change anything, but because they were depending on that, it's all external. You understand? It's not inside the person. Versus the Ruach on the inside. Watch this now. Because on the inside, what happens when you start to ask yourself the same question you say, how may I help you, to a person? What if you ask yourself that question? How may I help them? What happens if you ask that question on the inside instead of the outside? It's the subject of one of our patents. And the fact is that if you do ask the question on the inside, it starts an entirely different cascade. I said it starts an entirely different cascade. Why? Because you have high cognition instead of low cognition. So he's bringing your brain in, your renewed mind, into the conversation. You need to think. You haven't said a word yet. You have massive character development, because without internal questioning or self-exam, there is no character development. One more time. Without a self-examination or internal review, there's zero character development.
Right. And where would I start? I would start with, am I saved? Am
You
I,
start with any question
am I
you
really
ask
saved?
yourself. Okay. And then calculate between fixed points. Now, what happens? You start developing volition. What is volition? Means you have determined something. You made a choice. You choose it and you hold it because it's yours. It's not put on you from the outside. It wasn't imposed by grandma and grandpa. It's something you came to. You
Right.
sat, you received it, and it changed you. Volition occurs. Now you have
Right.
internal behavioral modifiers, not external. No, that person no longer needs a rule out here. That person's operating from within,
Agreed.
from
Yeah.
within. And
Agreed.
that is what creates a proactive,
Yeah.
authentic
Yeah.
disciple.
And
That's it.
in the first place, I would self-examine anybody, encourage anybody. Is am I right with Yahuwah? Am I saved? Number one.
Yep.
And am I right with Yahuwah? And
Right. Yep.
because there are people who are strung out. They're alcoholics. They're strung out. They're addicts. They're totally in the flesh, except when they listen to a broadcast like ours, and they come up for air every once in a while, and they think they're going to go through the new gates because they tune into a Christian program once a week. So if the examination has to be inward, the first place I would start was, am I saved? Second place would be, am I as committed and loving Yahusha today as I was 30 years ago, 20 years ago? Or has my love grown cold? Has my love waxed cold? That's the first place I would encourage anybody to start. Personally.
That's right. I think you're absolutely correct. I think one of the things you should ask yourself in the same line of thinking is, am I a spectator? Because the spectators is what you find outside the city. They all can watch, but they cannot participate.
Yeah.
Now that should put a serious weeping and gnashing of teeth in you right now. Just the thought you might be included in that, you should be checking, right? So where do you check? Do you check on the outside? Do you call somebody? No, it's all in here. It's the beating of the chest. It's the authentic asking yourself, am I really? Because you know something, you can fool me, you can fool Sholiak, but how many know you ain't going to fool yourself? You're going to say to yourself, wait a minute now, you know better. And then you calling yourself out. Look at that. Look at that examination. Funny how that works. You know, the best integrity is the integrity gift a man gives himself.
But you were touching on that before. You were saying that what's happening around us with the politics of the day.
That's right.
That can bring out either righteous indignation,
Yep,
or a defense of the indefensible. Now, people are going to read into that, thinking that I'm talking about the White House. Wait. But I'm not. I'm not necessarily talking. I am, but not necessarily. In other words, the politics will because you see people. I had a family here who moved all the way. Listen to this, Peter. I had a family here who moved all the way from Washington State, right? And because I, did not approve and politics got heated, here's what I want to say, not left and right, but they were so committed to that philosophy that is now in power that as soon as they heard me call it out, they forgot the fact.
You forgot everything.
That I married them for free.
Yeah, I forgot everything. That was it. That
I blessed them. That I invited them into my home.
Yeah.
That one of the parties had 25 years of following me around the country because I used to travel when I spoke. And when that person was single, she would follow me. She loved my ministry and my team. But as soon as I spoke against her man, I haven't heard from them since. They left.
That person's feeling pretty stupid right now. Okay? If they're not, they're not paying attention, and they certainly don't like 13-year-olds. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
But if you could break up a kingdom relationship over, let's say you and I disagree over the governor. Wait. Let's assume you and I disagree over the governor of Arizona. If that can break up our covenant ministerial,
then it ain't a covenant.
Anointing to do this broadcast. Like you've told me many times before, and I respect you for it. I really do. I'm not really sure if I believed you, but I'm going to choose to believe you. You said I'm not going to be the one to break up our friendship.
Nope.
No matter what happens, no matter what people say about you, if it breaks up, it's going to be your fault, basically.
I won't be the one to do it.
And that to me is character. That I don't even know if I'm capable of that kind of character, but that to me is character.
Thank you. I believe that. I believe that's what Mashiach says to us. I will never leave you or forsake you. If this relationship breaks, it won't be me. It won't be me. I will be staying still. A joke someone said, it's a marriage joke, but I think it's a good one. And this is a little admonition, a little poke at the marriages out there. Little poke, okay? And I said this to Mindy as when we first got married and I'm driving along, you're all on top of me, man. I can't barely drive. You're on top of me so much. Okay, I can't barely get.
No.
I can't even get barely down the road, man. And you're kissing on me and loving on me and touching me and everything else. Now look at you. You can't even get close enough to that door. Could you want to be part of that door over there? I'm driving down the road. How far away did you get? Well, things have changed. And then you're driving along. You say, well, I didn't move. I'm still in the same driver's seat I was when we met.
Man,
what happens? Familiarity breeds contempt.
Familiarity.
You start to take things for granted.
And after that conference in July, watch out, because you're going to know me better, and I'm going to know you better, and the devil's going to make sure he's going to attack to make sure you remember my weaknesses, not my steadiness.
I do not believe you actually have passed the test of love for your brother until you love his weaknesses, and until you can come to the place where you're like, yeah, my brother does that, but that's okay because he's my brother. He's not heavy. Until you can reciprocate that, okay? Until you can do that, you ain't saved. I'm sorry. And I'll step to every line. I step to the line with everybody, and I'll say that, hey, I'm gonna give you the love that you deserve, and then watch and see how they react. I do these things publicly. I'll do it publicly. I'll be like, that's my brother. That's my brother, right? And watch how they react. If they respond with, it's like they drew the one half of the fish, you have to draw the other half, right? Same concept. You got to be the one to say, I'm a brother. I'm stepping to the line. Are you going to meet me there? I'm going to be honest with you, Peter. Are you going to meet me there?
Yeah, true. But I'm going to be honest with you. I never heard anybody else say that to me, either during a friendship or when we began a friendship. You said to me multiple times, which means you wanted me to get the message. If something, because I was worried about 2 type A personalities. You remember that? Bumping heads. And we probably would if we didn't walk in the Ruach. But you said to me, whatever happens, I want you to know one thing. I will not be the one that disconnects. If we disconnect, sin's going to lie at your door. Genesis 4. And that hit me because nobody's ever talked to me that way. To be honest with you, even my wife never talked to me that way. To be honest with you. So that definitely got my attention, and that told me that you were sincerely different.
I do really believe very strongly in unity. And I believe that the Father has put this into us as special vessels to say, regardless of our differences, and they are wonderful differences. Isn't that beautiful that we have 2 different types of personalities and different expressions?
Yeah, but you can't fix the problem that I'm better looking than you.
No, I can't. I can't deal with that. But you know what I do have? I have so much love for you that I'm actually proud of you for being better looking than I am.
I wish I was telling the truth, but I'm not. I wish I was.
I'm okay with it. We got to open for questions. I'm sure there's a few out there from our beautiful, handsome people out there.
All right. Fair enough.
So, one thing that I do love is that there's so much good discussion now because of your work. No one can deny your work did this.
But one thing I'm not going to do, Peter, is ask the ladies, put the ladies on the spot, our precious sisters, and ask them who's better looking, me or you. I'm not going to do that.
Stop that.
Don't pressure me. Don't pressure me. Stop it. Stop it.
Mr. Slenderoni over here. All right.
Don't pressure me. All right. I'm not going to put the ladies on the spot. All right.
And we have such a wonderful group, and they love us both. So let's not do that, right?
We won't.
But
We're gonna behave ourselves.
if I can keep you in let's go this way. You know what I love about this man? I'll tell you what I enjoy about him is that he leads by example more than you think. If you start noticing corrections in me, it's not because he called me and said, "Hey, Peter, you need to do this." No, he might make a comment here and there, but he leads by example. And I love that. I love his great example. I love his diligence, and he impacts me without even knowing it. It moves me, gets me places where I need to be.
I see that because you let me teach you just like I let you teach me. Yep. I mean, I don't miss a broadcast ever since we connected. And just because we're in ministry together, I don't miss a broadcast. Because I see how you're flowing. I see how you're flowing. And I like the different, the different directions that you flow.
Well, and I try to be sensitive to what the Ruach is saying in that moment. This is one of the dangers with series and things that you get yourself going on, is that you can go outside of his will. In your case, I saw him, like, the fact that it didn't stop at 4 or 3 or 6. I was like, oh boy, he is the Ruach has him on a tear. And when the Ruach does that, you got to just let it go until it's done.
I want to serve notice to the newbies out there. Most of you are newbies who don't know me going back 3 decades. When Yahuwah first fired me with the true name, I didn't stop for 5 years. I made a lot of enemies. I ain't gonna stop till Yahushua tells me to stop. Sorry. 5 years. That's all I taught. I was on the name. You just didn't happen to be there,
right?
So y'all think I'm stuck on 70 AD. You know why? And I don't make excuses for it. I'm honored to represent Yahuwah on 70 AD. But you weren't there for the 5 years when all I would talk about was a true name, and the next 10 years when all I would talk about was Israelite identity and the restoration of the 2 houses. These guys weren't there.
Stay tuned, folks, because we're going to continue these kinds of discussions. When we talk about things like external versus internal, what is the difference? What makes you prepared for the coming of the King? Even if you knew he was coming next week, would you know what to do to be ready? And that is a question that so many take for granted. And it's one that I hope you stop and go, man, that's a really good question. Would I really be ready? Do I even know what he's expecting of me? Have I asked that hard question on the inside and asked him? Or am I just presuming because I don't really want to ask? And that's where the courage is going to separate the wheat from the tare. The courageous ask. The courageous will go and say, all right, tell me what I need to do. Tell me where I'm off. Tell me where I'm short. Tell me what I'm failing to do. And I can tell you right now, you guys are holding your gift off to the side as spectators. You're practicing to be dogs on the outside of the city. I'm just telling you right now, you put your gift on the shelf. You put your anointing on the shelf. You don't support. You don't stand with or work with anybody. I'm talking anybody. I get it. The apostles are too intimidating or whatever. I get that. Man, be supporting somebody, working somewhere. Standing there being a spectator just said, I volunteer to be a dog on the outside of the city.
And by the way, we don't have any questions, so we'll just keep going a little while longer. What else is on your heart, Apostle Peter? I mean, the things we talked about are intense, but we have a little time remaining.
I think the words of our mouth are another element that we have to be really careful with. We have an opportunity right now in this moment where we have the power of the upper hand. We were right. The remnant were right. You were correct. You were the ones out there telling everybody about judgment coming. You were the ones out there telling everybody to repent. You were right. Okay. So you enjoy the high ground. And now begin to preach and teach and share the gospel of the kingdom, the truth of the kingdom, the kingdom. What gospel are we commissioned to preach? The gospel of the kingdom. Okay. And if you keep preaching the kingdom, okay, that alone will change America. So great question, by the way. What is a great?
By the way, I agree with you. In other words, the gospel of the kingdom not only the kingdom is coming. Now we have to honor Yahuwah's revelation. The kingdom has come.
That's right.
What are your obligations and what are your responsibilities?
And stop believing in the great gaslighting, and stop believing in the great rug pull that Messiah came and said the kingdom of heaven is at hand and then made us wait 2,000 years. Stop believing
Right.
that.
And you heard me talk about this before. Can you imagine a Kadosh woman, Proverbs 31 woman, waiting at the altar? Her husband says, I got to take a break. I got some things to take care of. I'll be right back. And waiting 2,000 years. Do you know any women in the natural who would wait 2,000 years for their bridegroom to show up? I mean, she's literally all dressed up in her wedding garment.
The notion is crazy.
That would be the end of it. It's a crazy notion. It's not even
fathomable. Now you have sufficient evidence. Now you have plenty of evidence that has been now presented, empirical evidence like the silent years and things like that, that force you to reevaluate. I hope you all do. But that aside, forsaking the assembling of yourselves together, in other words, holding your gift outside while you review all these things, is a bad idea. Connect your gift. Support the house that you belong in. Stand with your brethren.
And when you get offended,
and then while you're there, you can ask your questions and learn or figure certain things out. But get in.
And when you get offended, not if, when you double down on the eternal.
Oh, that's a good word. Yeah, that's a good. We got to start saying it like that, huh?
On the eternal commitment. No, wait a second. On the eternal commitment that you made to me.
Come on.
According to Amos 3:3, that rhymes, by the way, before we even started walking together. Okay, you did an Amos 3:3 with me in the Ruach. Before we get to Rachel's questions, let me just share this with you. Amos 3:3 is not translated properly in most scriptures. It does not mean how can two walk together except they be agreed. It means the following. How can two walk together unless they have read the terms of the covenant that will allow them to walk together? If they have not reviewed the terms, how can those two be in agreement unless they have agreed to the terms? You and I didn't know each other from Pinocchio knowing Donald Duck, okay? But apparently we had the same understanding and the same view on things, and you reviewed the terms in the Ruach before we even began our journey.
Right.
So it was a Ruach thing where the Ruach, it was more of an appointment.
Yeah.
See, the problem with the church is we're going to go into the basement and pray, even though we hate each other. We don't have anything to do with each other. You're a Baptist. I'm a Methodist. We're going to pray until we come into agreement. And therein lies the fallacy. You don't wait to come into agreement. You don't start walking with an assembly or a person until you already are in agreement.
That's right. How long is forever, guys? Well, let me put it to you this way. Your salvation lasts as long as you are a member. How long you want to be a member? Your salvation will last as long as you are a member. How long would you like to be a member? Well, how long would you like to sign up for? How long? A week? Okay, 1 week life. You want to sign up for a year? 1 year life. You want to sign up for forever? Forever life. Which would you like to sign up for? Which box you want to check? You want to visit?
Makes perfect sense.
You want to just visit? Is that what you wanted? Okay, you can visit. We'll let you visit happily. You want to do one lifetime? That's it? Just a little lifetime? Come visit.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay. You want eternal life? Wait, hold on a minute. You want it what? Hold on a minute. Come on, you're kidding, right? You serious? You seriously want eternal life? Oh, you signing up for forever?
Forever. What you sign up for is what you get.
You signing up for forever? Oh, well, that's a different form. Let me get that form.
And you notice Yahushua didn't say to the Pharisees, look, we have disagreements like we do, like everybody does here. Sorry. You could say you don't, but you do.
Oh, that's a great question, Mindy.
Let's pray together. Wait a second. We disagree on just about everything. Allegedly, people talking amongst themselves, but we're all Bible believers. So let's pray and come into agreement. No, you do not walk and join and become achad until you are in agreement, because coming into agreement is not biblical. It says where two or three who are in agreement come in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Because you're not going to ask the master to come into your variance,
I think this is
into
why
your
we don't compare.
stereotypes,
Yeah.
into your schisms. Master, we don't agree on anything. We hate each other, but your word says two or three are gathered in your name. So here we are. Please come into our schisms.
You have made an excellent point. That's exactly correct.
And that's what the church does. And that's what the Messianic movement does. No, if you're, I'm going to say this to all of your people, because I can't speak for any, for me, I can speak for my people. If you are part of Peter's ministry, you are in agreement with Peter. You're not going to come into agreement. Your declaration of your presence is that you are currently in agreement.
Right. It's like the calendar thing. We had to put that on there. We only had 3 things to join Remnant House, and we decided this has to be part of it because it caused so much conflict, and so we had to add that. But it was originally no strife, pray for one another, and honor Yahuwah here. This tells me you're here. This is your house. So this is how I would know. It's that simple. And it's funny how every house has basically the same 3 rules. All houses do. When you really look, they all have the same rules. But I love your question, Mindy, about internal versus external. Thank you for asking that. You have an inside, you got inside knowledge on the importance of this. What would be the fruit of each to know which you're walking in, whether you're operating in external versus internal. This is the key. You ready? Where your behavior modification comes from. You see, if you're waiting outside for someone to ask you a question or to demand something from you from the outside, that means there's low cognition. You're not even thinking about this stuff. There's 0 character development. Okay, so when it's coming from the outside, it's a rebuke, yes, but it's meant to trigger you, not tell you. There's a difference. We're provoking one another versus dictating to one another, which Matthew 6 prohibits. So no character development comes from the outside, only compliance or defiance. That's all you get, is a little bit of a training. That's it. External behavior modifiers are meant to be temporary. They're only meant to be there while you are learning and getting a point. That's it. Because there's no calculation. You're learning from a third party. You are not calculating your answers. You are only learning. And so therefore, anything you are doing in that mode is performance only. You are acting or being a hypocrite, okay? Because it's coming from the outside. Watch this. So he does something different. He writes a new, he says, I'm going to give you a renewed covenant. I'm going to put it on your Torah, on your heart and your mind, so that now, instead of asking some priest or asking somebody out here, which never really actually transforms you anyway, and only makes you a conquered people, teaches you slavery thinking, okay? Instead, you ask yourself the question, is this the right thing? And you're asking inside, where he's going to meet you. Where does he pour his ruach? On the inside. Out of your what flows rivers of living water? Your belly, right? And it's the workings of the heart inside, okay? So what happens when you ask the question on the inside? This is the fruit you're going to see. You're going to see a person of high cognition. They're thinking. Doesn't mean they always get it right, because they may be in some trial and error, but at least they're thinking, and you can tell the difference. You can tell. Watch. They'd start developing massive character. Not because, again, they're flawless, but because they're comparing results. Okay? Internal questions improve your character right away. Who
said rend your hearts and not your garments?
Yeah, come on, somebody. And then you calculate differently. Why? Because now you have fixed points. Things like my eternal covenant, my identity in Mashiach, my brother in the assembly, my responsibilities as a brother or a sister and a son or a daughter. These become fixed points in the way that you function. They don't move. The Torah of Yahuwah, not movable. It's fixed. So what happens? You start to move within these fixed points. This is all internal. You develop your own volition. In other words, your will. Okay. So you say, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. What happens? Your will becomes his will. Your volition is his volition. And that makes internal behavior modification. So what is the result? Authenticity. You may not like the person though, but they're authentic. They believe what they believe. And this is the reason why Sholiak and I come into such agreement, because we already did the work. We're not doing the work now going, oh, let's see if we agree. No, hey, he did the work. I did the work. He calls me up and says, Peter, I'm gonna preach on this. I'm like, go get him, Tiger. You're right over the target. He didn't have to teach me anything. There were certain things I learned as we walked, but the point is I was already in agreement with him. You see what I mean? It wasn't something that I had to come into. And that's his point. And that's a very, very good point.
Right,
It doesn't matter which one of us were going to hit you first.
Rend your heart, not your garment, says Yahuwah. And Deuteronomy 10:16 might kick in. Internal versus external.
Yeah, exactly.
Deuteronomy 10:16, Yahuwah says to Yasrael, circumcise the foreskin of your heart.
Come on.
Okay? So what gets you into the kingdom? Is it the internal or the external?
Come on, man.
It's the internal.
Come
it's
on,
a kingdom
man.
issue. The external,
Come on, man.
the external is just forcing a kingdom issue.
I'll put it to you like this. Whom the Son, who's on the inside, if you abide in me and my word abides in you, okay, the Son sets free is free indeed. You're literally describing the difference between a slave and free. This is the reason why we're doing the technology we're doing, because one of the things you guys are not noticing that we noticed that you didn't notice is that they are using AI to train you to be a slave. I'm not going to go into this right now, but I'm going to go into it at a certain point. And I'm just telling you, they're using AI to train you. And how may I help you? Seems so simple and innocent. But let me ask you a question. If I take that same question, how may I help you? And instead of saying it to my brother Sholiak and say, how may I help you, Sholiak? And put all the cognition responsibilities on him and put him in the spot where he has to now tell me. And that's hard to do. But what if instead I say to myself, how can I help my brother? You know full well that what I will put on myself will be very different than what someone would dare to ask me. I will put more on myself, right, okay, than anyone would ever dare to ask me. There's the difference right there.
Yep. I fully agree.
So, no, what is it?
Okay, very good. Shalom, apostle, and shaliach. Okay.
I wonder what is the greatest
thing. Shaliach must be you, and apostle must be me. What do you think?
How
about you be shaliach, and I'll be the apostle? What do you think? What do you think is the greatest danger to the body today, Rachel? I think that a few things. That's a very good question. The first thing. Let me have a shot at this, please. Mm-hmm. The first thing is the ultimate denial, denying the deity of Yahusha, that he's the Word that has become flesh. Mm-hmm. Number two, some form of Gnosticism, that he did come in the flesh, denying the deity, the divinity of that word. Number two, the biggest danger is a dishonor and a disrespect for the leaders of the army, pretending that we don't have leaders in our army, that the risen king didn't leave us with any leaders, as opposed to Satan's army that has principalities and powers far above disquieted spirits who live in dry places, that we are a leaderless army, and that the doctor, the lawyer that can save us money or save our lives, theoretically, medically, is worthy of double honor, whereas the representative of Yahuwah is some kind of a water boy or a schlepper, as we say in New York, a schlepper. So those are the first few things that come to mind. I'm not going to say division, because that's a normal response and that's an obvious thing, although sometimes division is from Yahuwah, like in the case of Israel divided into two houses, or like in the case of Acts 13, where Barnabas where Paul and Barnabas had to split. So regarding John Mark. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. Hopefully that helps. Peter, your your shekels.
My shekels, my 2 shekels on this are I'm going to go with the foolish versions because I don't think it matters what age you're in. I think that the age you're in is the end of the age for you. Let's just put it like that. Like the great tribulation is the greatest tribulation happening to you, right? So we all have to deal with our own parameters. But the 5 foolish versions, to me, in any generation, represent the greatest threat for all of us. Because regardless of where you are in time, had you been there in the greatest generation, we can call it that, the greatest generation, right? Had you been there for that, um, you would have had to not be a foolish virgin. You would have had to be a wise virgin to survive. The example hasn't changed. So now here we are in a similar, some might say, scenario, right? A similar world scenario where there's a lot of persecution and the same scenarios are repeating themselves. Same solution, the same great danger, and that is to make presumption. So what do we see in the foolish virgins is presumption, assuming themselves to be okay. Why would there be great weeping and gnashing of teeth, except that those people all thought they were already good? So this is the danger, is I would say the greatest danger, because she said the greatest danger to the body. Today, I would say the greatest danger are the presumptions that people make that everything is totally acceptable when you're not getting your full review until the end. So sitting around thinking we're good was a foolish way to be. And those who are wise, who are humble, who made sure they had oil in their lamp, well, they were there when the bridegroom showed up in the night.
It's true. The night of Shavuot. Let's see.
So appointed time, appointed place, there's a lot of things that, keep coming back as repeat themes. They don't go away. And a lot of people want to throw it away. They want to throw away appointed place. They want to throw away appointed time. They want to say everything is generic now. That's a big, big danger, is minimizing and commonizing, making common what is royalty. That's a incredible danger, beyond words.
Again, let me take a quick shot at Jeff's thing. Not
Yes.
a mean shot, but I believe the little season, because we kind of touched on this in the Zoom meeting. I believe the little season is from 30 to 70 AD. Little, not 1,000 years is not little, not 500 years for it. That's not little. I believe it was a very short transition period between the old and the new heavens and earth. Now the rest of it, similar to judging princes, I think I answered that. Let me go to the next part. World government, princes or grandchildren. Those are repeating patterns.
Mm-hmm.
The princes, the unrighteous governments, the disembodied spirits. Those are the same spirits that are disembodied. That's a recurring pattern. They're always looking for a new house to be inhabited. But just I'll make it clear, I believe every single thing. See, I'm not a partial preterist, Brother Jeff. I don't believe the scriptures were fulfilled in 70 AD other than Revelation 20, 21, 22. I believe that Revelation 20, 21, and 22 were also fulfilled in the first century. So please understand that. And that's the perspective that I believe is from the Ruach. So I really don't want to get hung up on the little season, because if I believe Revelation 20, 21, 22 was fulfilled, then the little season is past. That doesn't mean demonic activity is past. That doesn't mean unrighteous leaders are past. Again, that's my view, and I believe we have to be consistent. And I also believe that when Yahushua said in Luke 21, 22, and 23, that all the scriptures will be fulfilled in the day of vengeance, when the Romans are sent by Yahuwah to destroy the synagogue of Satan, and then they in turn themselves will be destroyed. I believe that happened in the first century. Therefore, all 22 chapters of the book of Revelation are a historic book. There is not a single chapter in the book of Revelation that is futuristic. That is my personal conviction.
And if you come into that understanding, if you do, then it changes the way you order your affairs. Interesting point about this. First of all, it is the same New Jerusalem that is the mother of us all, the bride of Mashiach. This is the age we have entered. We have entered the age of the New Jerusalem. And so when you look at it like that, you say, okay, what are the entry requirements? They haven't changed. What? Yeah, they haven't changed. Because he's not a respecter of persons. So if he put his first century people through all kinds of persecution and difficulty to come in, trust and believe it is through much tribulation that you enter the kingdom. That is why outside hasn't changed.
Yeah,
That's why you still have to go through the Pharisees. You still have to go through persecution. You still have to go through the tests of Mark 4. You're not going to get a different entry exam than they got. Their example to you, and the fact that he fulfilled his word, is meant to encourage you all, so that you say, no matter what I have to go through, even if it costs me my life, I'm going to continue because he keeps his word, and I want in just like the ones that got in back here. Now they are your examples.
I agree.
How to get in.
Perfect sense. Yeah, absolutely. Those, they continue. Because we're almost out of time. Let me just address Jeff again. I appreciate that, Jeff. So I have done a teaching. If you go back, we're up to about 56 now. But if you go back somewhere in the 30s and 40s on that playlist, on the YouTube channel, and I can send it to you if you send me an email or message, or I can send it to you on Facebook, where I talk about when was Revelation written for 3 hours, and we prove beyond a shadow, beyond. Let me give you a little tidbit, because I promised that we would close early today.
Yeah, it was in the 60s.
Yeah, let me give you one little tidbit that I haven't touched. So people said that historically, John died under the persecution under Domitian, which was from 90 to 92 AD. Now, Nero's family, his true name was Lucius Domitius something. So the family moniker was Domitius. When you translate Domitius from a noun into some other form, Domitius can also be said Domitian. So Lucius Domitius Nero was actually from the family of Domitius. So when the historians wrote that John was killed during the Domitian persecution, which historically was 90 AD, way after 70, as opposed to the Nero persecution, Nero Domitius, which again, look it up online. You could ask ChatGPT. And that persecution was strictly from 64 to 66. John was murdered along with his brother James. James was martyred in 44 AD, and John was martyred in 66 AD, because that is a fulfillment of Mark chapter 10. Master, Yahushua said, can you indeed drink this cup that I drink? Can you? And they said, yes, we can. He goes, indeed, you will be baptized with the same baptism that I am baptized with, and you shall drink it, thus indicating that both James and John would be martyred. The mother was seeking a position of favor. He says, okay, before I give you a position of favor in the kingdom, can you drink the cup that I'm drinking? And they said, yes. Right. And he goes, you will indeed drink. So he was prophesying in Mark 10 and Matthew 20. You could look it up. Mark 10, Matthew 20. He was prophesying their martyrdom. That was under the Nero persecution. John wrote the book of Revelation and died in approximately 66, before 70 AD. That is a historical fact. There's no second opinion. There's a twisting of history, but you cannot twist the prophetic words of Yahushua. So the book of Revelation, when it was given, was a prophetic book. Let me state this very clearly. When the book of Revelation was written in 66 AD, it was a prophetic book. But once 70 AD passed into the new heavens and the new earth, from our perspective, it is a historic book. Having said that, what Apostle Peter always says, the recurring patterns of the book are still happening.
Yes. So, again, you may pick up, we're at this point of the pattern. And so therefore, this is what's in front of us. Okay, well, that's great. And they might, in fact, follow that pattern. And you may see certain things that continue to repeat. They saw it in the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s. They all thought, they all had the same exact fury and fervor, that I should say, that you have today. But the fact is that these are patterns. Now, as I said, there cannot be a change in the requirements. So if you had to be willing to stand up against persecution in the first century, why do you think that you would get a different entry requirement in a couple centuries later? Why do you think it would just suddenly be, oh yeah, you don't have to worry about nothing. You don't have persecution. You don't have any of that. Nonsense. Every generation is going to go through it, through much. And so what do we have here? Did the first century assembly fulfill their purpose? Are they an example to the flock? Like Peter said, 1 Peter 5 says that they were to be an example to the flock. What flock are they talking about? Are they talking about the flock they're standing amongst? Yeah, but the real flock that they're an example to are every generation that would come, every Nero that would get up, every idiot that would think he could put the saints completely out, every generation, every one of their Hitlers, every one of their antichrists who would rise would all meet the same demise. So we continue to see the same cyclical nonsense. But what you're not picking up, but we're not all picking up, is that the process is for our benefit. It is for us to demonstrate that despite the darkness, we will shine our light before.
Right. Peter, would you be so kind and bear with me? Because the question that Jeff asked is asked. It's an excellent question that is asked all the time, and I don't want anybody taking my word for it. Okay?
Yeah.
Just give me a second. I want to show you something. You see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Claudius, there it is.
Look at it. Look at this. Born Lucius Domitian or Domitius. That's again. It's a language variant. Okay. Lucius Domitian or Domitius. So was John persecuted and died a peaceful sleep? No. He was persecuted under Domitius, but not the 92 AD, but the actual Neronian persecution. Nero was the Domitius family. And Yahusha cannot lie, according to Mark 10 and Matthew 20. Both brothers drank the same cup of martyrdom that he drank from. Okay? That's it.
And that's a sobering thought, huh? Does that sober everybody up? Does that sober you up and say, wow, you mean, Peter, I thought we had like an easy street program. Nope. There's more people dying now than there were when I first made the comment that another believer dies every 5 minutes. That was based on 100,000 persecutions per year. We are now at 300,000 per year. That is according to Amnesty International, I believe, is one of the sources for this information. So persecution is going up for believers in Messiah. So it used to be once every 5 minutes. Now it's one every minute and a half. Somebody else is dying because they will not give up the name. So again, dying, not just being persecuted, not just prejudice against, not just not getting a job. No, dying, being killed in the earth every couple of minutes. Somebody is dying because they will not yield.
And as go ahead.
That tells you the temperature on earth, and those that are sitting on cushions, those that are sitting comfortably. We all have our moments of comfort. Do not take that lightly, because it could be your moment tomorrow. Next thing you know, you're in persecution, and you have to be willing to endure to the end to be found faithful.
I feel bad for all the people that didn't tune in today, because usually we have a few more listeners. I feel really bad. You know why? They missed some deep truths into the word of Yahuwah. I feel bad for them, but hopefully they'll get a hold of it later in the week.
Amen. Sholiak, it is always an honor for me to sit with you. And I am so thankful for our connection and our friendship. And I certainly hope that people take inspiration from our unity and the fact that the Ruach put us together. And it goes to show you that it is a choice. We can stay together as brothers if we choose to, or we can choose strife and division. That is our choice.
Right. Good reminder. That's a good reminder.